of the Zooming Zanni. So we've been away for a few weeks. I will be interviewing our resident historian, Bianca.
Okay, yeah.
About the history of Commedia dell'arte and some of the fallen fools and characters of Commedia past that we might not be so familiar with. Hi, B.
Hey, hi, hello. How are you guys? And you, Ben?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yes.
So I've got a few questions about
Always questions.
about the
Always
history
questions.
and the culture of Commedia that Western, or like that modern day Australian American, non-Italian actors might not be so aware of.
Mm-hmm. No, even Italians, they're not.
Even Italians. So I guess the first question is, if I was to ask you about 5 of the most significant Commedia dell'arte people since like the history of Commedia, 5 people we should research and be familiar with.
Do I have to stick to 5 or I can go further?
Depends how long we get through them.
Okay. Well, if I have to mention 5 ancient VIP of Commedia dell'arte, the first one that pops into my head is Carlo Goldoni. And everybody knows Carlo Goldoni, so flick it at the back and go to somebody that is less evident than Goldoni. I would say, well, another one that always comes first is Flaminio Scala. Flaminio Scala, do you know Flaminio Scala? You know what the Flaminio Scala did?
Yes, I do know Flaminio Scala.
Flaminio Scala gave us a collection of almost 100 of scenarios, so-called scenarios, or canovacci. Then we will explain what canovaccio is. And not all of these canovacci or not all of these scenarios are actually plays, but it just put together the movement, the scenic movement, the succession of scenes of every single plot that he could record. And that's a blessing. That's something that is really important, because it doesn't indulge in dialogues. It doesn't indulge on recording the monologues or the real words that were spoken, but it just take the so-called canovaccio and put it on paper and publish it. So that's a treasure that is left for us when we study Commedia dell'arte, because there is not much that remains from that time. So another very important, another VIP of Commedia dell'arte, of course, is the greatest Isabella Andreini. And with Isabella Andreini, and we are already 1, 2, 3, and with Isabella Andreini goes the husband, Francesco Andreini, who also left a very important collection of his bravure del Capitano Spaventa della Valle Infierna, and the son of the couple, one of the son of the couple, which was Giovan Battista Andreini, who was the only one of the family that continued the tradition, the theatrical tradition, after the departure of the parents. Isabella Andreini was an extremely important actress of the time. She was born, just because my memory is, Andreini was born in 1562 and died in 1604. All the actresses, I don't know about the boys, I didn't research much the dates, but all the actresses died very young. They hardly reached 45 years old.
That was common in those days, though.
It was common in a way, but the life that they used to live, it was extremely dangerous and troubled, and they were not rich. They were, and one of them was actually poisoned.
Do we know how Isabella Andreini died?
Isabella Andreini unfortunately died in one of the worst way you can die. She died of giving birth to, I think to her 8th child. So, but if you think about the history of Andreini, of Isabella, it's something really strange. Some historian recorded her, she got married at 14 years old. Others, they say she got married at 16 years old, okay, with Francesco Andreini, who was double her age. So if she was married at 16, he was 32, or she was married at 14, he was 28. So you can imagine, 20 years old nowadays marrying at 14 years old. It's like it would be totally illegal. But and she had right away. So we don't know if she had the child when she was 16 or 14, but she right away she had the first child, Giovan Battista Andreini, which is the one that he was 28 when she died. So if you do the calculation, okay, she died at 42. The son was 28. I don't know. It's like something you don't want to think about it. But she so she died of giving birth to her 8th child who didn't survive, and she was coming back because of course life was really hard. She was coming back from a performance. They were called by the King of France to perform in Paris. She was heavily pregnant. She couldn't say no, because you don't say no to a king, even if you are Isabella Andreini. And on the way back, she just collapsed and she died in Lione. And her funeral was huge, was really dragged people from all over, because she was so well known as an actress. And but strangely, only Giovan Battista continued in her profession and in the parents' profession. All the other kids, one became a monk. Sorry for my accent. And the 4 daughters, they went into a monastery. They became nun, and the other one became a ducal guard. So strange, very strange. If we want to talk about other people very important in Commedia dell'arte, one was Tristano Martinelli, which was the one that invented or initiated the character of Alricchino. Tristano Martinelli. Let me see if I have the date of birth, maybe. Tristano, no, I don't know. Was born in Mantova. Mantova is extremely important for the fortune of Commedia dell'arte. Okay, Mantova, first of all, is a beautiful city in the northeast of Italy. And Mantova, Ferrara, etc. Everybody thinks that. What do you think is the most important city for Commedia dell'arte in Italy? Okay, you chewing. Venezia.
No, I wouldn't say Venezia.
Because you just say Mantova.
Now? I would say Reggio Emilia.
Now is Reggio Emilia. Yes, Bologna, Reggio Emilia, etc. No, at the time was, everybody thinks Venezia. Okay, Venezia is the most important. It was actually very important because Venezia at the time wasn't a kingdom. It wasn't ruled by strangers or dictators or tyrants, but it was a republic. So it was a free state. I mean, for the time, okay, for the idea of a free state, of a republic of the time. So there were a lot of theaters, and life was, artists were encouraged in people. Free thinkers were encouraged in Venezia. So everybody thinks Venezia. But one of the most important cities for Commedia dell'arte was Mantova. Okay? And Tristano Martinelli was born in Mantova. In Mantova was ruled by the family of Gonzaga, the Duke of Gonzaga. Okay, Gonzaga, they were extremely rich because of the position of Mantova, which was a cross in a special position to be in contact with north of Europe and south of Europe. Okay, so and the rest of Italy. So was a particularly lucky position. No, it was a ducate, un ducato, ducate, okay. The duke, the duke, king, duke, earls,
Okay.
So and the Duca di Ferrara was extremely open-minded, and the Jewish community in the city of Mantova was extremely lucky, because everywhere else they were persecuted. Venezia actually invented the ghetto. Was the city that first enclosed all the Jewish, push all the Jewish in one area, close them down there. You live there, you don't go to live anywhere else. This is your ghetto, okay? So there was no ghetto in Mantova, and the Jewish people were asked not to pay levies, not to pay taxes, but with the money that they were supposed to pay in taxes, they were forced to entertain the Duke. Okay, so they had to pay for the entertainment. So they had to pay for staging plays or organizing parades or big entertainment for the Duke. And probably, I don't want to say that this is it's something throwing the stone too far away, but the best producers in Hollywood and Broadway are Jewish. So probably that was the beginning of it's the beginning of a new profession. And so there was a lot of attention on companies, a lot of attention on theatrical companies, and of course also Commedia dell'arte. Okay, and Tristano Martinelli was born in Mantova, and then he came up with this specific character of Arlecchino, Tristano Martinelli, a lot of R in this. Martinelli, L, very difficult for you English people, the double consonant.
So it's Martinelli.
Martinelli, Martinelli, and the other one was Silvio Fiorillo. Silvio Fiorillo was the inventor of Pulcinella. So two great second Zanni, okay? And then there were if we want to talk about.
They weren't from the same time? Or
they were all from the beginning, from the second half of the 16th century. And Commedia dell'arte started in the second half of the 16th century, and then went on with this golden age of Commedia dell'arte, practically along the same trajectory that Shakespeare had. So we're there, okay, a bit longer.
That's the five that I asked for: Goldoni, Flaminio Scala,
6 actually.
Isabella Anvini, Francesca and Battista Anvini, and then Tristano Martelli and Silvio. What was the last name?
Fiorillo. Come fiori, like the flowers. Fiorillo.
Fiorello.
No, Fiorello.
Can't say it.
That's okay. That's okay. You are this guy.
So you mentioned Shakespeare. A lot of people have made Shakespeare comparisons between Shakespeare and Commedia, but there's evidence to say that Shakespeare actually wrote Commedia plays onto page for the first time. Can we say that definitively, or is it still a...
Absolutely. Okay. Commedia dell'arte was a great inspiration for Shakespeare. Okay. Just clarify one fact, that Shakespeare never ever traveled in his life more than from Stratford-on-Avon to London and back. Okay, because his family was in Stratford. I can't say
Stratford.
Whatever it is, Okay, and he never traveled to Italy. Never, ever. But the companies of Commedia dell'arte were actually traveling all over Europe, and for sure they went also to England, because there were patrons in England, okay, rich aristocrats of the court of Elizabeth, and they travel all over there, and they perform. So now you have to think that, okay, women were not allowed to perform in theaters in England, but women always performed behind closed doors. Okay, maybe not English women were performing at the time, but actresses coming from Italy were actually performing in front of. You can't imagine a company, an important company from Italy traveling to England and then going there and have somebody who, one of the actors dressing up like a woman playing the part of Isabella or playing the part of the lover. Of course, behind closed doors, they were actually women that were allowed to perform. So Shakespeare saw women on stage and appreciated the thing. And after that, he wrote something that very, very few people they can see that is a commedia dell'arte play. He wrote The Taming of the Shrew. The Taming of the Shrew, if you analyze the concept, the structure, the characters that they play along in the play, it is a commedia dell'arte play, and Shakespeare was so clever. I don't know many play he could see, but he was so clever that he absorbed the style and the structure and he applied straight away to his own plays. And well, we have the other great play, which is the Twelfth Night, which is another example of commedia dell'arte on stage in Elizabethan theatre. And then at the end of his career, he actually wrote a couple of tragic comedies. And in The Tempest, there are two characters of Zanni's. One is named Trinculo, the other one at the moment I don't remember his name. But they actually are commedia dell'arte characters. They are Italian and they perform commedia dell'arte within the scheme of the Tempest. And it's like a comic relief. So he learned a lot.
So he would have obviously seen commedia along the way somewhere.
Absolutely.
Otherwise,
Absolutely.
He wouldn't have had it.
And he also appreciated a lot.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
So, if commedia influenced Shakespeare so much and still influences modern theatre and modern media so much, why do you think Italians don't know as much or know enough or know more about commedia dell'arte? Because it seems to me that they talk about commedia with like familiar tones, but they don't actually. It's not taught in schools, or it's not like a section of your drama curriculum or something.
No, absolutely. No, apparently we don't have a drama curricula in Italy because we don't teach drama in schools, which is an abomination of the education system in Italy. Yes, I say it and I underline it. And but we live with commedia dell'arte around us. Maybe this is the reason why we don't have to talk about so much, because everywhere we grow up with, I grew up with, all the characters with the Carnevale. We didn't have Ninja Turtles, and at the time I was little, I was still, looking for the Harlequin costume for Carnevale. So we grew up with this tradition that is very much embedded in our culture. But Commedia dell'arte was like swept aside from Goldoni with this Reformation, and Commedia dell'arte became something that it's not really something that we should go proud of, because it was a vulgar way of performing. It was a second, when I perform and I say that second class bunch of actors that and that's what is still felt in Italy. Everything is comical, has like a label, a stigma of second class. If you are a comedian, you're not a real, you're not a real actor. You're not a very serious person, and we lost the importance of Commedia dell'arte. It was actually rescued by French, by Russians after the first World War. That's really difficult for me to say.
And so when Commedia started, it was incredibly popular.
It was cutting edge.
And spread all through Italy and spread internationally as a theatre export. But then it changed But then it became not popular. It almost was lost completely.
Well, it took a century. Okay, so the parabola, the parabola, yeah, the parabolic way was very long. So we don't know exactly when the movement of commedia dell'arte started. We have no idea. There is nothing written. There is no record of historical record that this is the, you know, was a big earthquake and then boom from below, you know, from the underground, you know, this company of actors pop out and suddenly we have commedia. Nothing like this happened, so we don't know exactly when the phenomenon started. And then slowly, because things, you know, at the time things were changing very slowly, you know, much slower than now. But the social situation, you know, the political and social situation in Europe changed. So changed the commedia dell'arte. The commedia dell'arte became many other things, gave birth to practically all the forms of entertainment that we know now, apart from cinema, because there was none, but opera, where balletto, you know, dancing was already existing before, but, you know, circus, mime, burattini, you know, the puppet theater, and became something else. But then it didn't have any more the same resonance in the audience, and so slowly it was abandoned.
Because it wasn't reflecting the audience anymore, or it wasn't landing the same way that it used to, like
because
comedy,
because probably the audience became more sophisticated and asked for something more sophisticated. So I think that this is one of the reason, and commedia dell'arte changed into something else through evolution, through Molière, through other you know, expressions, and then Goldoni and blah blah blah. So became something else, became the modern theater that we know nowadays. But the form of commedia, which was improvised, so just don't forget that this is the most important thing. Commedia dell'arte was improvised, was something that belonged to the actors. So there's been an evolution. I will consider 3 steps of evolution. The first were, you know, when the actors were in charge of the performance. So I am an actor, I perform, I improvise, and I give you my work. Okay, so the company of Commedia dell'arte was a coalition of professionals. All single one were peers. Okay, so peers, and the actors was in charge of the performance of his own performance and collectively of the whole performance. So the actors was the center of the Commedia dell'arte. And then with Goldoni, there's been a shift. This importance was taken from, yes, we are not sponsored by Coca-Cola.
But we could be if you're interested, Coke.
The power was taken from the actors, was given to the author. So the author became the most important. So because he was writing the script, and he imposed the actors to memorize his line, and he had to work really hard to force the actor to do this horrible action on their own brains, because the actors, they wanted just to continue what they used to do.
What do you think forced that evolution? Because evolution usually happens by
because
necessity.
He understood, Goldoni understood that way of acting was at the end, was finished. So he had this idea to rescue those characters that were important for him, for his audience in Venice, for his audience in Paris, and he rescued those characters and he put them in new place, and slowly he even removed the masks. Okay, so
that's
and he
interesting.
imposed.
A lot of people credit Goldoni with the death of Commedia dell'arte, but you're saying that he was almost the savior of Commedia dell'arte?
Probably was the savior of Commedia
because
dell'arte.
there's nothing recorded pretty much from before that, and then if he
Yeah.
didn't rescue the characters.
Well, he
from-
get the name of Commedia dell'arte. He named Commedia dell'arte, so art of the
named it.
professional.
Yeah, so then things could be labelled under it, so then we could have a record of
Yeah,
something, let alone.
Exactly. Yes.
So yeah, that's interesting.
So maybe we are shifting there. And then nowadays, the power has been taken from the author and from the actor, and it's been given to the director.
The producer.
The producer is still the shadowy man with the money, but we're still looking for. We need a producer with the money, but but the director. Now you go to see the version of Othello by.
Yeah, but a
this
movie
director.
can still fire the director and move on and hire another director on the same project. The producer's kind of the one that's like, I don't like you anymore.
Oh,
Get
probably.
out.
So we are in the fourth
Yeah.
phase. Like now it's the money that
The
counts.
money. So
By the way, we're still looking for a producer. If you have the money, you want to give it to us, just do it.
yeah, follow our Patreon
Yeah.
page just down here. So then if that's the kind of the characters and the history of the style, why do you think it's so it's not as popular today? Like, why do you think it struggles to make mainstream kind of audiences in its original format? If it can be so mainstream as The Simpsons, if it can be so mainstream as all the other slapstick styles and comedies and cartoons, why do you think Commedia isn't like a Shakespeare?
Probably because there has been discombobulation, if I can use this word, which I like very much. Makes sense?
Discombobulation.
Discombobulation between what it was and what it became. That's my idea. It's my, guess. Uneducated guess. But if we could bring back what Commedia was at the beginning, so this, fresh, energetic, improvised way of performing that was, maybe we'll have again the same
But
spirit.
Shakespeare doesn't have that. Shakespeare has the opposite almost, which is like completely structured, performed almost the same way every time. Do not pronounce a word or you'll be escorted off stage. So why didn't Commedia? I feel like there should be just as much space for Commedia as there was for Shakespeare, but
Yeah, but there
Shakespeare
has
just
been
gets spoken about.
there has been like a continuation of productions of William Shakespeare, or at least from a certain point, Shakespeare is being recognized, because at this time, wasn't so well, appreciated. Also Shakespeare, but after a certain time, after the Enlightenment, finally Shakespeare is being recognized as the greatest playwright that he is, and it's been from that time onwards. There has been a continuity of productions of Shakespeare. We all know it. We all studied at school, but what can we study in schools? What can we see of Commedia dell'arte? We don't know. It's all somebody says something, somebody else says something else, oh, I heard that Commedia was this. No, Commedia is this, is what I do, so there is no unity in what is produced by, and there is not really any great professional ensemble that can reproduce that original movement that was Commedia dell'arte. So in a way, it's a shame. Except for us, of course, But in a way, it's a shame that there are no records, so we don't know.
Do you think the Italian government should do more to promote Commedia dell'arte and support Commedia dell'arte theatre companies around the world, because they promote Italian culture abroad and history?
I think at this moment we all have a lot of problems, and maybe when this, COVID problem will be over, they will see us like, the saviors of the, no, scrap this.
When we're finally allowed back in theatres together.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to go politic.
Um,
Let's stay on the history.
So then, Carnevale.
Oh yeah.
There are characters in Carnevale, and I'll pop up the image on the screen now with the different characters and which regions they're from. You can see that Pantalone is from up here in Venice, and Pulcinella's down here, and over here we have, and over here, up here, you might also recognize Brighella, and Tatalia's down here. So you can see some Commedia characters here, but if we look a little further over here and over here, we're going to start seeing characters that we don't recognize from Commedia, or at least the imagery isn't as strong as, say, Alecchino or Pantalone. So who are these characters?
Ooh, these characters.
And are they Commedia?
Originally, probably yes, they were Commedia dell'arte characters. Okay, so because as Antonio Fava said, he collected, I don't remember how many hundreds of different names of Zannis, okay, second Zannis. So we have a long list of characters, because every single actor, and that was the beauty of Commedia, and still is the way we do it, that is so elastic, it's so changeable, it's like a mold. Mold. Yes, you can make a cake, you can make a loaf of bread with it. You know, you can do whatever you want with it. So every single actor that was playing the part of a second servant, a second Zanni, was, or other characters like, you know, old people, I vecchi or I capitani. There are so many capitani, Matamoros, you know, il capitano Spaventa della Valle Inferna. What's yours?
Oh, I've got a few.
Capitan
Vulumulu, Timbuktu,
exactly, you know, so every single actor that was playing a Capitano has the right to come up with his own Capitano, with his own bravura, with his own thing. And so also was the Zannis. So there are a lot of characters that, you know, they drop off, ploof, 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 from the Reformation of Goldoni, ploof, ploof, ploof. Well, don't belong anymore. Yeah, boom. But you know, Italy it was a very strange country, and still is, because it's very much divided in small regions. Okay, at the beginning we were divided in 7 main states and ducates. And then slowly, now we are united, but we are still divided in regional areas, like, you know, Piemonte, Lombardia, Veneto, Emilia-Romagna, Toscana, Umbria, Marche, etc., etc. I don't go all the way. And every single, sorry for my accent, I'm going regional. Every single region has his own representative, have his own character representative. But they probably come from Commedia, but they don't belong to Commedia anymore. First of all, most of them, apart the original Commedia dell'arte, which are Balanzone from Bologna, Arlecchino from Bergamo, Pantalone from Venezia, the Lovers are from Tuscany, because they speak a good Italian, and Brighella from north, the region of Lombardia, and a few others. Apart from those that have a mask, they continue to wear a mask. All the others, like Stentarello, Sgannarello, Meopatacca, I don't know, there are so many on your... Gianduia, Giacometta are the characters. We call them maschere, but they don't wear a mask, they don't belong to the Commedia dell'arte, but they come from that tradition, okay? So Gianduia and Giacometta are from Torino, from my city, and usually they open the parade for Carnevale, so they are the MC for Carnevale. So that's a tradition that remains, that comes from Carnevale, that comes from the masks, but has nothing to do with Commedia anymore. So
then there's the confusion. That brings us to the confusion that often occurs between Carnevale and Commedia dell'arte.
Sì.
They are linked.
Oh, they are very much linked.
But they're not the same thing.
Commedia dell'arte could survive without Carnevale easy.
So how would you explain the difference between Carnevale and Commedia dell'arte?
Well, well, the self-explanatory, because Carnevale is 1 week, 7 days from okay. Carnevale is 7 days before Lent. It terminates on Fat Tuesday. Okay, so these 7 days preceding the 40 days of Lent, in which the church imposed to the actors not to work anywhere. Okay, because we have to prepare ourselves for the Easter and the crucifixion of Jesus. So it's a moment, where everybody has to, punish themselves and suffer, and and not to eat. And Pantalone loves that, because it doesn't spend any money on food. But this last week before the Lent is the time when, if you didn't make money, you were in big trouble. So it's the time in which the Commedia dell'arte companies were, playing all the cards that they could. So they were performing as much as possible to make money for those long 40 days of forced retirement, forced not working. It's la quarantena, it's 40 days, okay? 40 days, 40 giorni, okay? So, and that's a connection between, in Carnevale, the world was upside down. The church allowed like a pressure pot to release the steam socially. So Carnevale was upside down. Everything was allowed, and so you could perform whatever you wanted, and you were free to do it. So it was a great time of fun, and that's why we continue to associate the mask of Commedia dell'arte to Carnival, al Carnevale. Not Carnival in English, is a different thing. But I think that Commedia dell'arte could survive pretty well without Carnevale at the time, because the companies were working possibly all year round, and in the time of Carnevale, on the time of Quaresima, Lent, they were all grouping around Bologna, because it couldn't work. So what you do, you prepare for next year, and new companies were forming, because you didn't belong to a company for all your life, unless you were the capocomico. So Francesco Andreini, Isabella Andreini, the capocomici of the Gelosi company, were the head of the company. Of course, that's your company, unless you dismantle it, that's your company. But actors were actually moving from company to company, They had contract with one company, they were moving to another, they hated that capocomico, they had argument with the prima donna, and they were just going to move to another company. Or company wanted the best actor for themselves. And the time of Quaresima was the time in which the producers, the agents, because there used to be also agents at the time, Flaminio Scala was an agent, was an actor, was a playwright, and was also an agent and agent. So they kept connection between the committers, how you say, the people that the people that they wanted the company. How do you say? The committed.
Yeah, the commissioners and the people that would pay them to
the patrons. Yeah. Okay, so they kept connection with the patrons, the big families, the Gonzaga family, the Medici family, blah blah blah, and all the Duchi di Monferrato, etc. Okay, in March or April, this company will be in Monferrato. And they were organizing all the company what to do, receiving the money, sending the letter to receive the money. Okay, that was the most important thing they needed during the time, to receive the money to be able to start the new year of performing. So in a way, Lent was a moment of regrouping, okay, and reconstruction and organization.
End of the
okay?
season and the,
Yeah, end of the
yeah.
season, and the new season was starting. Yeah.
Who was censoring the performances at the time when Commedia dell'arte performers performed? Was there punishment if they mentioned something that was against the church, or if they mentioned something that was against the king? Was there is there any recorded evidence of anyone losing their head or
Well,
suffering
no,
anything?
there are records. Don't ask me specific because I'm not an historian, so I'm just an actor. But there are records of actors that they've been playing too well the part of Capitano, mocking the Spanish invasion, occupation, the Spanish occupation, and they've been beaten very badly by the Spanish. Okay, by the soldiers, they felt like being mocked. So that's something that could happen to the actors. But the companies they had to be very careful on what they were staging, because there are records of companies that have been kicked out from cities because you needed a permit to perform in a city. You needed a permit by the authorities. And if you were too vulgar in your performance, or of course street performance, open performance, and or if you were disrespectful of the authority, of course, you were censored and you were kicked out. So that's it. Get out. We don't want you, and you can't make any money. You have to move to another city with a bad record, that follows you. So we have records of this, of actors that have been put in jail. One actor was actually playing the part of a Pedrolino and has been put in jail because his performance were considered too vulgar and offensive.
But nowadays, if something is banned from blah blah blah, it makes it more popular. Would that not have been the same deal with?
No.
Banned in Padova.
No.
Modena, come see. Blah blah blah.
No, because the authority had to give you the permission to perform. So if your bad reputation was following you, you were not allowed to perform in other cities because they wanted to keep quiet. They wanted to keep order. And population under control, not to ferment some strange idea or immoral behavior. So that was one thing. And then the church, of course, was extremely opposed to for this reason, morality, and was extremely against Commedia dell'arte. So there's been the case of l'Arcivescovo Carlo Borromeo, which is, they made a saint. It wasn't I'm not sure that he deserved to be raised to the sanctitude, but Carlo Borromeo was absolutely opposing the Commedia dell'arte, and he forbid one company to perform in Milano. He was the Archbishop of Milano. He completely forbid them to perform in Milano. So this actor that found himself, suddenly without any possibility to feed his company and to perform and do his job, he was very clever, like Bertolt Brecht when he convinced the commission, anti-communist commission, that he wasn't a communist. So the same way he went to the Carlo Borromeo, and he convinced him that Commedia dell'arte wasn't immoral, and and he promised him that all his play would have been morally acceptable, yeah. and after 2 days of negotiation, he got back his permission to play in Milano. But the church opposed a lot. The power of the church in Italy was great. So, and another thing.
Were they punishing people just through banishment?
For that's one of the reasons why there is no religion in Commedia dell'arte. Don't forget that was the time in which the witch hunting started. Okay, and in Italy they were not burning too many witches, but the persecution was more against heretics. So if you were talking against the church or about the church or mocking the church or mocking a priest, you were in big trouble. You could put yourself and your company in big trouble. So there is no religion in Commedia dell'arte. There is no priest between the characters of Commedia dell'arte. There is the wedding celebrant, or there is other things, but there is no mention of church, religion, or magic. Okay, so very important, because you know the stake was always there, ready to go.
Just superstition.
No, there is no not even superstition.
There are superstitious characters. And
oh yeah,
Fosca appears and
yes, yeah, but well, death. Fosca is death. Okay, Fosca is the character of death. Death was everywhere at the time, so mocking the death wasn't something so terrible. The pestilence was recurrent, so people were dying like flies. So it's not a superstition is okay. Superstition was part of the life, of everyday life, but actually church, priest, no.
So when people say that Arlecchino or Harlequin is a little devil, and the warts on his face are the remnants of horns and things like this.
Yeah, okay, but that has nothing to do with religion, okay? Because there are historians that say yes, this is true. There are others that say no, it has nothing to do with you know, devil or stuff. But I think it makes quite sense. Imagine that in the Middle Age, or what we call the Middle Age, the only sort of performances were the holy representations of the of what's happened to you when you sin and you go to
the underworld.
Yeah, the underworld. Okay, so you go to the inferno. Okay, you are relegated, you know, down where the devil rules. So there used to be the devils, and the devils were wearing strange, you know, mask or strange costumes, and they say that's went, you know, from the holy representation. These people that they were doing regularly the holy representation became in a way professional actors or less amateurs actors, and so they saw that, you know, they could continue the plays also after the Easter, and start to, you know, to make money performing. So these funny characters of, you know, the lastly old man that was, you know, sent to inferno, you know, to pay for eternity. That characters was, you know, became the character of Pantalone, and the devil that, you know, was following him, the little devil, little Arlequin was following him, became in you know, we're talking about decades and decades, became the character of the servant. But we have, you've got
one of each of the 7 deadly sins with the characters. If you think about Dottore being
the gluttony,
the lovers being lustful.
Yeah, no, lustful is more. It's more. Yeah, vain. It's more.
Brugella and being lustful and or money. Yeah.
Yes.
Like greed.
Well, I can say Pantalone has almost all the 7 sins in himself.
Don't we all?
So apart the gluttony. Yeah, but he's a frustrated glutton.
He would love satisfied. He's just satisfied with so little. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, B, for answering my questions about the history of Commedia dell'arte and the Fallen Fools. Like always, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, feel free to send them through to us on our socials. And we'll see you next week on the next Zooming Zanni.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao. 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 Bye.